Hello, and welcome to the fourth episode of This Week in Cars. I'm your host, Jaron Wong, and my co-host,
Justin Hong.
And this week, we have some pretty good news. It's the LA Auto Show, and I don't think we've seen too many car reveals because of the auto show.
Yeah, mostly just seeing some cars like in the flesh.
Yeah,
but not too many reviews.
I think the biggest news, or rather the manufacturer with the most news, is Porsche.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we've had an exciting reveal of the new Porsche GT4RS, and it's basically a street car or a race car for the streets.
Mm-hmm. So that's the Cayman, which is mid-engine, I believe.
Mm-hmm. It uses the same GT3 engine, I believe.
Yeah, so almost 500 horsepower from that engine.
That's nuts.
Yeah, so I think there's been a lot of speculation into whether this GT4RS would have the GT3 engine. Mm-hmm. And I believe Porsche, they've released a Nürburgring lap like last month. And then people have been speculating based on the sound from that, whether it was a GT3 engine. And we finally have the confirmation now.
Yeah, so it's a naturally aspirated flat six, 4.0 liter, makes like, I think it's 79 horsepower over the original GT4, which is a pretty substantial bump.
Yeah, so it's only, I think 10 horsepower less than the GT3. And they said Porsche said it's due to the different exhaust system, mm-hmm. since this one is mid-engine. But I don't think it'll be able to feel the difference with 10 horsepower, right?
10 horsepower is almost negligible.
Yeah, and it still has the 9,000 RPM red line.
Jeez.
Basically what everyone wants.
Right. But also another difference between the GT4 and the GT3RS or GT4RS is the lack of a manual transmission. Yeah.
So the RS, they only have the PDK, the 7-speed dual clutch, which is super fast.
Yeah, it's a good gearbox.
Yeah. And I think they also said that the manual, they don't have a manual that's strong enough for in the mid-engine platform for this new engine.
So the GT3 doesn't have a manual either?
I don't think so.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, so going back to like basically being a race car for the streets, like when was the last time we really saw race cars with like manual transmissions that are not just paddle shifters like Formula One cars right
now? The Viper, Dodge Viper, that's a.
When they had like were they in like a racing series?
I mean, they had the Viper ACR, which I think it held the lap record in Laguna Seca for some time. Yeah.
With a full-on manual.
Yeah, wow. I think so. That's the only one I can think of, but yeah.
It's 10 years ago?
It must have been at least 10 years ago.
Jeez. I still remember like when I went to the San Jose Auto Show, I saw the Viper concept, like the new, I guess it was called the was it the Demon? Like a Dodge? Like they actually had like it was very similar in terms of styling to the current Viper, or the now they've discontinued the Viper too, so I guess it's a past Viper. But that was like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, PDK it's very racy. There's also I think like especially because it's a race car for the streets, the manual transmission can be overlooked. Mm-hmm. If you wanted like a more pure driving experience, there's always the GT4.
Yeah.
Is there any other differences? I think
yeah, there's some like some chassis changes as well. I think they did some suspension brake tweaks, but nothing too crazy. I think they also
nothing too crazy relative to what is a GT4RS.
Yeah, they have a wing. I think they also have a package where you can have more carbon fiber bits, some lower weight.
So I think this raises two questions for me, right? Like, you come out with this special edition, that's gonna be like how much more than the normal GT4? I think like 40K more.
Yeah, at least 40K more.
Yeah, I remember the GT4 came out like a year or two ago, and that was already like it's impossible to get. So the GT4 RS is going to be even more impossible, even if you had a deep pocketbook, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably have to have your money down by now to even have a chance to build your own.
You'd have to be like a Porsche, one of the insiders essentially.
Yeah.
It's the same as Ferrari.
Yeah.
To get one of these special car allocations.
Yeah. Even though they haven't said they're limiting production, it's probably still pretty low.
So yeah, actually, this isn't a limited production run.
Yeah, it's not, but I can't imagine too many are going to be made.
Interesting. So, yeah, I think the I guess the main question is, why would you take a GT3 over a GT4?
Yeah, this new release definitely puts that into question. I guess you just, for me, I'd have to say if you just really wanted a 911, as opposed to the Cayman platform, you want that GT3.
But the GT4 RS is, I think, 20 kilos lighter? That's if I remember correctly. So it's slightly lighter.
It's lighter, but the 911 GT3 is still, it's a faster track car.
It's faster?
Yeah. Around the Nürburgring, it was in the 6s. Well, this one was just barely above 7.
Right.
Yeah, so that one's still definitely a better track car for sure.
How do we know it's not Porsche just nerfing their numbers to make sure?
I watched a lap of this and they were really pushing it. He almost lost it in the corner.
Yeah. I think I was having another conversation, which is like talking about the same question, and the GT4 RS uses strut suspension, while the GT3 has the double wishbone, which, like, it makes a slight difference, but I mean, unless you're a professional race car driver, I don't think you'll notice the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just hope owners of these will actually track their cars.
Unlikely.
That's my hope.
I think out of all the sport, like, can you call this a supercar?
No.
Probably not.
Yeah.
It's like still like this is pushing.
It's pushing it, but I don't think it's there yet.
Like, out of all the sports car manufacturers, I think Porsche has the most owners that actually go out on track.
Yeah.
Right. You have like the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis, and they just and even the McLarens, they just kind of strut around, show off their car, post a lot of photos on Instagram.
Yeah.
But how often do you see them at the track, actually, flogging their car?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of reflected by how Porsche is really, they care a lot about their Nürburgring times. And
any manufacturer can do that, but it's kind of up to the owners whether they are the type to be actual driving enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Which I guess is a form of gatekeeping. Like, oh, you have to track your car to be a real car enthusiast. But we want to see the cars be used, not just stuffed away in a storage compartment and stuff.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I think the question is, do you think this will be a future collectible?
Extremely likely.
Extremely likely?
Do we see I think this is the first GT4 RS? I don't think there's a previous
I think there was a previous one. I believe so.
Oh.
But this is definitely the last internal combustion engine.
Really?
Yeah, for the Cayman, the next one's going to be all electric. Wow. They've already announced that. So I want to say, like, Porsche engineers, they just went all out on this one, just stuff in the GT3 engine. Just go out with a bang.
Has Porsche announced that they're going to go full electric for
the Cayman, yes. So, for the 911, I don't think so.
So just maintain gas. I can see
too much heritage there.
I can see why Porsche is like one of the biggest, the manufacturers that are pushing for the synthetic fuels the most, just to preserve this heritage. Yeah. That's pretty much all I had to say about it.
I think they also had a Club Sport one that came out.
We can talk about the Club Sport, which is...
So the Club Sport is, it's like the hardcore race car version. So you don't have air conditioning, audio system, you have a roll cage, no sound deadening. Yeah. Also has 500 horsepower.
This is very similar to the Civic Si race car we were talking about a few episodes ago. Like, this is for racing customers, like specifically those who want to participate in like a racing series and have a car that's just like bought track ready, race ready specifically.
Yeah.
So I think is clubs. I want to say club sport is like the kind of like the entry level for car racing, so to speak. Like you're not gonna buy like there's where am I going with this? I think like a Civic is very easy to start racing. Like get into car racing, and then like the Porsche would be like the next step of that. And like there's a reason why there's a GT4, GT3, GT2 because like these are all different classes for racing. And I think the Le Mans is one of those examples of you have different classes and you're not necessarily racing everyone on the grid, but you're racing within your class on the same track. So GT4, I want to say GT4 is a class itself.
Yeah, I think for a lot of these GT2, GT3, GT4 cars, the reason they were created in the first place is Porsche had to create like a street car based on a race car for the homologation requirements. Right. So we're pretty much essentially getting a race spec ready car here.
So are these collectible?
I think more so than the normal one.
But I would say that like I feel that for race cars, oftentimes like if you short of being like a championship winning car, there's not that much collectability. They're often like just like used and then like stuffed in a shed away somewhere like for 20 years to be undiscovered or to be discovered in like a almost unsalvageable state, short of like if like I guess this is discounting like Formula 1 cars. This is more like the club sport level kind of racing. Like these, it's just like one time I had the chance to visit NOLA Sport. Basically in New Orleans, there's a motorsports park, and they have an on-site Porsche service center, and inside there's like basically these are customer cars, and they're allowed to say I want to race this weekend, and that facility will literally truck their car out to that facility or to the racetrack, and then the clients or the customers would fly out on their private jet, go race for a weekend, and then go home.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the filthy rich version of racing. I think racing in general is very it requires very, very deep pockets.
Yeah, pay to play for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's like they're not like I guess they're more serious enthusiasts than the average owner, but that's because they are passionate enough to spend millions of dollars on racing. So can't fault them for being extremely wealthy and into motorsports.
Yep.
Cool.
So I think we can move on to our next review, which is another Porsche. So this is the Taycan GTS.
Yeah.
So I think this GTS kind of slots between the normal Taycan, was it a 4S, and Turbo and Turbo S.
Yeah.
Which is following Porsche's naming scheme for other cars, which I never really understood.
Yeah, so for Porsche's naming scheme, you have the base model, right? And then you have the S, which is a sportier version. And in the past, it was followed by Turbo, then Turbo S. And then I want to say it started with the Cayenne, that they threw in like a GTS variant, or maybe the Boxster, but it's supposed to be a more stripped down version that is like more back to basics with the performance goodies and not the luxury goodies. So it's arguably more driver focused than like.
But is it actually more stripped down, or I can't imagine like today they're actually taking luxury bits out of their, say like Macan GTS versus like the Turbo or.
In the case of the Boxster, yes, Like they literally go to, you have fabric door handles, and like I want to say there's even I don't think I don't know if it's the GTS trim, but there's one without like a radio, so just focused on the driving. But it's definitely like, they actually do go a little like more. They're more lightweight. They have all the performance goodies. So yeah, I would say it's a valid trim.
But I think for the Taycan, since it's pretty much the same powertrain underneath, same battery, same motor, everything is just done in software. And I can't imagine them actually removing much weight, since there's most of the weight's the batteries.
Right. The weight is essentially negligible. Like you can remove some carpeting or whatever, like bits, and that still won't get around the fact that an electric car is just much heavier than ICE cars. Yeah, in this case, I think they went with like basically mostly color stuff.
Yeah.
Some like trim pieces, but there's not a huge. It's just a visual thing, right? For the GTS.
Essentially, I think it's just a mid-range Taycan.
I think maybe has a little more power than the.
I'm sure they unlocked a little bit more power.
And that's the thing with electric cars in general. I think it kind of started with Tesla, right? Where all the cars have the same battery pack, but the trim you buy just limits your which how much power, how much range you have. Yeah, but in this case, it's basically a little more power and some visual things to woo the Taycan owners from a 4S to a GTS.
Yep.
But would you get one?
I think it's a bit out of my budget.
If you had the money, would you choose the GTS over the 4S?
I'd try to save up for the Turbo or the Turbo S.
That's fair. Like, I get that Taycan has like the racing heritage, and it's like good around the Nürburgring, but I feel like Taycan owners is in the same market as Model S owners, right?
I think so.
Because how many people are taking Taycans racing?
I've only seen them cruising on the highway.
Right. Yeah, like they're not really. They're track cars, but when you're at a real racetrack, there's not really any charging stations. Not yet, at least. I think that's probably going to happen, though. You're going to have a lot of different chargers for different cars, or rather one unified charger. But at the rate electrification's happening, I think we're going to see a lot of like charging stations at these tracks.
Yeah, but you still have like the overheating issues. You can't. I think Porsche is better at that with their EVs.
Yeah, Porsche.
But still, like it's still an issue. You have to cool down.
I think the Taycan specifically has the ability to launch like back to back like 50 times or something crazy like that.
Yeah. So it's a lot better than other EVs, but
specifically Tesla.
But I don't think it can do like back to back Nürburgring laps and
probably not
keep up the power.
So I think we've seen like Formula E racing. It's more I guess they don't go on for as long. Same with Moto E for motorcycle racing, because the batteries are, limited to how much they can actually.
Yeah, and the tracks are like smaller. They're more street oriented.
Yeah.
You don't have as high top speeds. It's more slower speed corners.
But I feel like, so back when back in the day, Formula One had pit stops where you can gas up the car and then go, and they got rid of that because it was dangerous. But I think like I can see a electric racing series that had like a pit stop that included like a battery swap.
I mean, Formula E, they had car swaps previously.
That's different though. The whole point of like endurance means driving the same car, even if it's a different battery. But like battery is just a replacement for gasoline.
Yeah, but I feel like Formula E wouldn't want to go to the battery swap because they want to, like I feel like with the series they want to push EVs more towards general adoption, right? By showing their ability during racing and by showing how you have to swap batteries, it's not a good look for EVs.
I think we'll see cars that also have battery swaps.
I think with the rate that fast charging is progressing,
it's not necessary.
It's not necessary. Like Tesla had their pilot battery swapping some years back, and it just never caught on once their superchargers.
I think Tesla, or rather it was a Chinese manufacturer that.
Neo.
Yeah, I think Neo has like a battery swapping like technology they're trying to implement wide scale.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like concerns in like, so what if you get swapped a bad battery or other things like that, which knowing the land of infinite venture capitalist money, they'll just solve that problem by throwing money at it, you know?
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, that's our rant into electric cars from GTS to electric.
Yeah. So I think the next car review this week was a Ferrari Daytona SP3. So this is a really limited edition. Mm-hmm. And you can't just buy this. You have to be a Ferrari selected owner.
This is just like the FXX.
Yeah.
Or the, I feel like, as a kid, I would be super interested in these cars. Like, oh, I want to know all the special editions. But as I get older, knowing that I won't be selected by Ferrari anytime soon, I feel like I've stopped caring at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that this thing exists, but it's so out of touch that that's just what it is. It's cool to me.
And the only person who gets access to these cars are Supercar Blondie. Like, she's the only one who does videos on these cars, and for me, I personally find her annoying as hell.
I mean, I've seen people try to like start buying Ferraris from the base ones, and then they start climbing up. And then they can buy like the SF90, and then maybe I think like they're hoping that one day they'll get invited to buy one of these.
Wow. I'd rather just go march into their factory and be like, I demand this car. I think it's more likely that you'll be remembered to be selected than you slowly buy all the different Ferraris,
Yeah, but I guess that's just how Ferrari runs it.
Yeah, they keep a log of who gets what, like who's bought which car.
Yeah, but I think what's special about this Ferrari, it's probably the last Ferrari with their V12, naturally aspirated 6.5 liter V12, mm-hmm. And they've had some upgrades for this one where it makes the most power out of all their V12 cars.
It's really good looking.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it looks really special, and I'm sure it sounds amazing as well.
Like this is, I want to say it's better. I think it's better looking than the LaFerrari.
Really? Yeah.
I would say so. Because the LaFerrari, like, they tried to kind of do, like, a half Enzo kind of deal with the pointed nose, and, like, the Enzo was a legendary car, LaFerrari, it was the first time with a hybrid powertrain, and it's an amazing car, like, I've only seen it on, like, the Grand Tour, but that's really all I know about it, because, it's like, it's one of those cars you just never expect to. You can aspire to get one, but good luck.
Yeah. And I think the styling for this is really unique because it's kind of inspired by some prototypes in the past in their racing history.
I think it's the funniest part of it is the light bar. The tail light bar has infiltrated every level of automotive design.
Yeah.
Like, who first started this? I want to say was it Porsche?
I don't know. Like, it just happened overnight.
Yeah, everyone has a light bar now. Like, who doesn't have a light bar? I want to say the first one. Was it? Could it be Hyundai? No. I know I started noticing it on the Macan first. Like that.
How about we do some research and we can get back to this next
Probably.
week?
I don't know if it's necessary though. I mean, it's just the automotive trend.
Yeah, but it's a pretty big trend, I gotta say, in terms of styling. It's one of the trends now.
It was a thing back in the 60s too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they just kind of.
So we gotta figure out when it revived.
Yeah, I know it's recent, and whoever did it, props to them because everyone's doing it.
So, I think the next topic is kind of a recap from last week.
Yeah, this is like a follow-up.
Yeah, so we'll just briefly go over this. The Mazda CX-50. So, last week we talked about how the prototype, not the prototype, the actual production one would be revealed early this week. Mm-hmm. And now that we've seen it, At least for me, I thought it was better than I expected. It's pretty unique.
I think the one thing we got right was we got right that it was a lot of plastic cladding.
The active lifestyle part of it.
Yeah, because we predicted it was gonna be the CX-30, but even like on a CX-5 body size, right? But I thought it was gonna be like one of those swoopy ones, you know, because they're trying to attract all the swoopy coupe SUV looks. But so now we know that the zero behind the SUVs is active lifestyle with plastic cladding. So I think I'm willing to bet we're gonna see a CX-90. There's a CX-7. They axed that. They got rid of that. There used to be a CX-7, but they got rid of it.
I think the CX-70 and CX-90 have been confirmed, right?
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, there's going to be a larger CX-70.
Yeah, and that's when they're going to put their new inline 6 engines in the larger
can we
crossovers.
get that engine in a Miata?
Probably too long.
Just mounted transversely.
Okay.
Mazda engineers, make it happen.
Yeah, but it's the CX-50's styling. I really dig it.
Yeah, it's. I think this actually goes back to our question about Rivian trucks. Like, how many people are in this active outdoor lifestyle that need a truck, you know? And I feel like this would be an even more appealing car than the Rivian, right? Because you're going outdoors, and basically when you're going outdoors, you need the reliability of getting gas still. Like it's the infrastructure is being built out, but it's gas is just like, if you look at all the overlanding videos. By the way, that YouTube channel was called Lifestyle Overland. I recently remembered, but like, you know, they carry extra gas tanks. You're like, until we see battery packs you can bring around, like, I think you're kind of stuck to gas cars if you're going into the wilderness.
You can just tow like a diesel generator
to charge your electric car.
Yeah.
You might as well just tow a whole supercharger station, and then you can share it with everyone. But we've also seen that Jeep is doing their 4xe, their electrified Wrangler.
The plug-in hybrid.
For now, but I think they'll eventually do a full electric one, and when they do, the weight is going to be a question for off-roading, because it's heavy.
Does weight matter that much for off-roading?
I think it does, especially depending on your what kind of terrain you're going through. But like, imagine you're trying to climb a rock, right? And your car is so heavy. To be fair, you'll have a very low center of gravity, but you know, it's easier to go over a rock if you're light than you're heavy.
Yeah, we'll see if like the electric torque will be enough to overcome the weight.
You'll have a lot more torque.
Yeah.
Pushing like.
I think.
Truck level.
Yeah, I think with the 4 motors on each wheel, you'll have better control. It should be able to compensate.
That's true.
But we'll see how Rivian and other manufacturers execute their electric off-roaders.
So they're more off-roaders, but I think like it's a good question about like rock crawlers. I guess the CX-50, this is like going pretty off topic, because the CX-50 is not like a rock crawler. It's more like, I like to go on a dirt path once in a while. with the lifestyle look. That's the same as the RAV4, right? The RAV4 Rugged Edition.
Yeah, the adventure trim.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but going back to what I was saying, it's like, would like those rock crawlers, eventually they're going to be electrified too. And I guess the question is whether or not that weight is going to play a role in their ability to rock crawl. Cool. Should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, so we're going to introduce a new section of the podcast, which is what grinds my gears. I think we're allowed to use that phrase because I'm pretty sure it's not copyrighted or trademark, right?
No, it's just at least
I'm
not.
Sure it's gonna be part of the podcast.
Maybe not in like this context. You're not. Yeah.
So if we said it was more of a car thing, they'll allow it.
Yeah.
Because cars have gears.
Yeah, it's fair use.
It's
fair use.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So what grinds my gears recently is I've seen several of the BMW M550i's, and don't get me wrong, like it's a great car. You got basically a detuned M5 engine, I think. Not.
Yeah, I believe so. The twin turbo BMW
Yeah.
V8.
And it's an Autobahn Stormer, which is everything the 5 Series should be, if not the M5. But people are getting very proud of their M550i's. Like I get it if it's an M5, it's a Halo car. With that Clive Owens video, like everyone wanted to be an M5 driver, but that's the Halo car. You have the car that's below that, yet you're super proud of it. And it's not a bad thing to be proud of your car, but to make it to a point where you have like vanity plates that's like, dark M550i, it's kind of cringe.
Yeah, like can you imagine Porsche GTS owners doing something like that? It'd be just as cringe.
Just as cringe, but I can see Porsche GTS owners doing that. They may not have the turbo, but there'll be like one bad GTS, and it's like, oh my god, you don't even have the top trim, So I think there's also other analogies without sports cars where people are very proud of their second to best trim.
Yeah, like the most aggressive drivers are often the people driving base versions of their sports cars, like the EcoBoost Mustang.
Yes, that's a bad one. I guess Scat Pack is okay. Scat Pack is pretty cool. The Dodge, but I think people are very proud of their V6 Dodges too.
Yeah, the base engine.
Yeah, I think but the thing is that stereotype's been very much like explored, so to speak. There's a lot of people who are out there with their V6 domestic cars, but German cars or foreign cars, so to speak, I think this is a new thing because of these AMG light cars. You have the AMG 43s, the AMG 53s now, and then also Beamer decided to join in on that, and they have M-line cars like the 550i, M550i.
Yeah, and even like the AMG trims where it's just a trim, you don't have any performance upgrades at all.
Mm-hmm. That raises a question, I'm sure this has been debated to death, but are AMG line or AMG, a C43 AMG, is that a real AMG?
That's a very philosophical question.
I think the publicly accepted discourse, so to speak, is that a real AMG is always hand built.
Yeah.
That's always been this is what distinguishes an AMG from a non-AMG car. And we know that these C43 or the E53, they're not hand built.
Yeah, they're not.
So is our official stance going to be they're not real AMG cars?
I think for the AMG, I'd say that's a good stance to take.
Okay.
But for other M-line cars, I'm not sure. Are M5 engines hand built?
I don't think so.
So then, what makes a real M car then?
When it's an M and a number, and nothing else.
What about the X5M? Does that count? X6M?
Are SUV M cars M cars?
This is bringing in more questions.
Yeah, this raises more questions than answers. But I feel like that's an entirely different topic, right? Or rather, this could be a whole different grind my gears section where are SUV sports cars really sports cars? I think we'll save that for next week.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that wraps up our episode. What's coming next week? Any good rumors?
I haven't heard any.
Yeah, I mean, LA Auto Show was this weekend. We got 3 car releases.
Mm-hmm.
a little dismal. I was expecting more.
I
feel
know.
like we got more interesting things from SEMA than LA Auto Show.
Yeah, but then I think with this new trend of manufacturers just not releasing things at car shows, I think this is the direction we'll go, where you won't hear many new releases. You just see the new cars after they've been
Was
released.
Integra part of the LA Auto Show?
They had a prototype there, but I think
it was released before.
Yeah.
But it was kind of released because of it, right? Like, so they can showcase it.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay. So, we'll see what happens next week. But thanks for listening, and be sure to check out our YouTube. And our website is coming soon at thisweekincars.com.
Yep. It's under development.
Under development, right. All right, well, thanks for listening, and see you next week.
See you next week.